Affairs don't begin in the bedroom. They begin in childhood. In the part of you that decided she needed to bury her truth just to be loved. The part that's now screaming to be seen. I'm Alex Croxford, and this is the Deeper Love podcast, where we name the shame, face the guilt, and help you find your way back to yourself. So let's begin. Christmas after an affair can feel truly unbearable, especially in the early aftermath or the reveal or some kind of disclosure. And especially it's exacerbated when you're expected to be normal, happy even, joyful, whilst internally you feel like you are at rock bottom. And so if this season, this holiday season, feels like you're just in survival right now, there's not one part of you that can enjoy it or be happy or look like the families on television or in the Christmas films, then that doesn't mean that you're failing at Christmas. You are just responding to the huge rupture, the absolutely enormous bomb that's gone off in your life. And this doesn't make you weak. Just because you're so strong and you can get through so many other things in your lives, I want you to know that this doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you. This is what happens when the raw, messy truth of being a human meets a season built entirely on pretending. Christmas itself isn't the thing that obviously makes this pain so much worse. Christmas isn't the problem, but it absolutely puts a magnifying glass on what is already there under the surface. All the things that aren't being said, all the things that we've brushed under the carpet, all of the habits that annoy us about our families and the rules and the ways that we have to behave with certain family members. You know, it's like a pressure cooker of pretense. And of course, over Christmas, we're all spending more time together. The kids are off school. You're probably off work. Your partner's probably off work. And suddenly you have all this, well, a mixture of free time, if you're lucky enough, but also having to jump from family event to family event to friends event to family event. And there are, apart from these events, which normally come with their own unspoken stuff, there's also fewer distractions. You can't hide when you don't have to go to work, or there's not a commute, or there isn't the constant getting the kids to school flurry, or even like the Christmas presents that need buying. That's all done now. There is nowhere to hide at Christmas. And we can find ourselves sitting at the Christmas dinner table feeling physically present, but emotionally completely elsewhere. Like our minds are miles away, running over and over and over what's happened, how you're going to get through it, the fear, the grief, the regret, the stories that you're a terrible person and you don't enjoy yourself, you don't deserve to enjoy yourself anyway. And you're constantly smiling and yeah, I'm so happy. Yeah, how's your year been? Yeah, great. How's Christmas going? Yeah, really good, thanks. When inside there is this like knot in your chest and nodding along to conversations. And you're thinking, you've got no idea. You've got no idea what I'm going through. And here you are talking to me about your next door neighbour's dog. And I'm just in my head thinking about how we're going to get through this next week. And it can feel like you're just watching your life, like you're watching a disaster movie from the outside. You just can't be present in your body or in the spaces that you're meant to be so happy and joyful and free and loving and happy because it's Christmas. And it's just so fake. I would say that most Christmases, families are trying to achieve what we're shown on adverts and what we're shown in films. And most families aren't that happy. There is always something. Families trigger us even beyond having to negotiate the aftermath of your affair. It's this pretense that we get caught up in of how it should look and how happy we should be and how joyful we should be. And there's some people that are having an absolutely, excuse my French, fucking shit time at Christmas. I remember the Christmas of 2020 after I had told my husband. I'd just moved in back into the house. It was, I think, about the 17th of December. And honestly, I was looking down the barrel of the next 2 weeks. That was before the COVID lockdown came in again. Already looking down the barrel of the next 2 weeks, kind of half excited about maybe being able to have a happy-ish Christmas. We were still trying to decide at that point, before the lockdown came in, whose family, were we going to go to separate families? Because obviously we were in the midst of this separation, and I was, relieved that I didn't have to go and spend Christmas with his family and look them in the eye, knowing what I'd done, especially now he knew. And then the lockdown came in, so we weren't able to leave anyway, which in many ways was equally as good as it was horrific. But that time, that period of time, this weird space that we're kind of given, especially between the end of Christmas and New Year, that betwixtmas part, where it just feels like every day merges into the next day and there's just no plans and we're just watching Christmas films. And, when you're in the aftermath of the affair, there is this perpetual worry about the conversations that you're going to have, or triggering one another, or trying to make something perfect, even though this is a really imperfect time. But when the noise of Christmas and life and working and everything silences, it means that you can actually start to feel and hear what your body is trying to say. And sometimes that can feel excruciating. The heavy weight on your chest, or the tightness around your throat, or the knot in your stomach. But it doesn't mean that just because you're feeling all of this in your body now that things are getting worse. You don't have to numb your way through it. You don't have to drink or eat your way through this. It just means that you can't outrun what is already there in your body. You can't escape it. And that slowing down means it is even more present. And most of the time, we are distracting ourselves from it without even realizing, through, working, through commuting, through watching Netflix perpetually, through being on Instagram scrolling, through drinking or partying or whatever it might be, focusing solely on the children. You just can't hide now from the experience that's in your body. The shame starts to get louder, especially if you're hanging out with people that have no idea what you're going through. But at the same time, and on the flip side, and I'm very grateful that I didn't have this experience, but if you're having to be in family events where everyone does know, but no one is saying anything, there's this kind of unspoken energy of, I know what you've done, and shame on you. And it's an incredibly uncomfortable place to be. Like, who wants to be around your family or your partner's family when there is this judgment or this not understanding, or these accusations or statements like, oh, you can't have loved him then, or you can't have loved her then. And I don't understand. How could you do this? How could you do this to them? And these conversations aren't, first of all, to be had with your family members. And I feel that so often we don't have boundaries around these conversations because there's a part of us that feels like we deserve it. So we kind of accept it or go along with it, or feel like we're rude if we try and tell somebody that we're not going to have that conversation. But the truth is, you don't have to manage other people's comfort. You don't have to make them feel okay when you are literally falling apart inside. And being the strong one, I suspect so many of you are the ones that are the strong ones in your families and in your friendship groups, the ones that probably never really showed emotion or didn't really show any vulnerability. This is a crazy time of year because being at rock bottom, where I suspect a lot of you are feeling right now, it's like, well, I still have to smile. I still have to pretend. I still have to be the one that looks strong. I can't be vulnerable. I can't be seen to be weak. But the thing about shame is that it absolutely multiplies when we are in silence. And Christmas is full of these unspoken rules, like you can't be unhappy at Christmas, you can't be angry, you can't be ungrateful, you can't be tired, you can't, well, maybe you can be tired actually, but you can't be pissed off. You certainly can't be going through a rough time. You know, yes, the family wants to play a round of charades. So you get up and play a round of charades, even though there is literally no part of you that wants to do this. I honestly just remember being at family events and just wanting to lie on the sofa and cry. I couldn't. And I couldn't really do that because that's not what I did. And I remember there were members of my family who were aware, and there were members of my family that weren't aware. But even the ones that were aware were so worried about me because I wasn't the one that cried. I wasn't the one that laid on the sofa in a fetal position. And there's so many situations in which you can't do that at Christmas. And so it's like you feel like you don't belong in places that once felt so homely and safe and secure, and you look around at all your cousins or aunties and uncles or brothers and sisters, and everyone seems so happy and like they're nailing it and they're understanding how to be in relationships. And I remember looking around, constantly looking at other couples thinking, have you had an affair? Have you had an affair? Have you had an affair? To try and ease my own guilt and shame that I had. But you are not broken. That loneliness that you feel, the feeling of like being completely misplaced and not knowing where to go, it's not because you're broken. It's because there is a part of you that has just crossed a threshold. You've stepped into a portal, and a portal that right now is so painful and so lonely. But thresholds and portals, they are lonely before they can become anything else because no one else talks about this. There's very few people who you can have a conversation with about an affair, first of all, but second of all, who are able to have a really reasonable conversation about, well, not even reasonable, an expansive conversation about what's possible. And even though that you are in this pain right now, that there is hope. And the other thing that I want to talk about, actually, because this has come up a lot with a lot of people that follow me on Instagram and clients that are coming into my world, is missing your affair partner. Let's talk about this, because at Christmas time, when we've got films like The Holiday and what's that one with Martine McCutcheon and Hugh Grant? I don't know. Any of that film. You've got all these romantic Christmas films, and you've got all the adverts and the John Lewis advert, and these are very British references. If you're in America, then don't worry. But I have no doubt that you have some similar expressions of so much love at Christmas. It's all about love. And so, Christmas time, when you felt like you loved your affair partner and now that affair is over, is probably going to bring up some feelings, more feelings of grief and more feelings of missing them and feeling heartbroken. And it's always in those quiet moments, you know, the ones that your kids are playing with your toys, or there's no family event to be at, or it's like a few hours in the morning in between getting up and going to whichever house you have to go to that day. It's in those moments that it feels extra painful. And there's nothing to distract you. There's no work, there's no commute, there's no constant WhatsApps with your friends because they're all occupied with their Christmases. And it feels like the heartbreak, the pull towards that person is magnetized and amplified. But I want to be really clear with you about this. Just because you miss them does not mean you made the wrong choice. Just because you miss them does not mean that they were your soulmate. And it certainly doesn't mean that you should go back there. Because let me tell you this, what you are missing isn't them. It's how alive you felt in your body. And your nervous system remembers the sensation of that experience, not the truth of who you should be in relationship with. Because affairs create intensity. The secret texting, the secret arrangements, the finding stolen moments together, the excitement of receiving a text message when you shouldn't do, or deleting your messages, or making arrangements to have this secret life. There is so much intensity in that. And the thing with intensity is it cuts through numbness, especially if you have been really disconnected from your emotions, from your body, from your life for a really long time. I know that I was numb and I didn't even realize it. I was numb for years. I thought that my addiction to partying and the love that I had of festivals was because I was a really fun gal. But what I realized very recently, actually, was the desire for that escapism or for that partying was the same desire for intensity that I found myself in the betrayal within my marriage. Because the truth is, it felt like aliveness is the only way to describe it. It felt like I was seen and desired and wanted and like I mattered, even though I definitely didn't. And that experience was rushing through my body, all of the giddiness and the hormones and feeling like a teenager. But let me tell you this, that intensity is not the same as intimacy. And sensation is not the same as safety. And when we find ourselves at Christmas in the quietness or in the madness or in the being at family events and our minds wandering to thinking about our affair partner or regret or shame or guilt or grief or all of it at the same time. And then on top of all of this, we have this pressure to sort it out by the new year. We have this bizarre construct that we should have our lives sorted by the 1st of January. And we have to decide on what we're going to do. We have to move on. We have to make a decision so that we're entering 2026 knowing what we're going to have in our year. We need clarity. We need to decide everything. We need to be able to make New Year's resolutions. We need to be able to move on. And I want you to know that is absolute nonsense. You do not have to decide anything right now. And in fact, making big decisions at the most dysregulating time of the year is a hard no. I feel dysregulated just going into the city centre. I went into London. It is insane, the insanity, the energy of everybody. Everybody is so dysregulated, so stressed out, so manic that trying to make massive life decisions right now is not right. Clarity on your future doesn't come because there is a made-up deadline. That's just nonsense. And it only comes when you feel safe enough to be able to make a decision to change your life. And any pressure that anybody is putting on you to have this all sorted by the 1st of January, which annoyingly isn't even the beginning of the new year. It's just what the Gregorian calendar made it out to be the new year. The new year is actually spring. That's an aside, but it's important because I want you to know how fake that it is that we're trying to sort some of the heaviest decisions in our lives in the depths of winter at a time of year which is stressful for everyone involved. So you don't have to get through this season by pretending that you are okay. You don't have to perform your Christmas joy, your Christmas happiness. Like if you feel like you just need to be in the fetal position on the sofa for a day, do it. You don't have to stay at family events for longer than your body wants. You can leave. You don't have to please everybody else this Christmas. Look after yourself. You don't have to explain yourself. If people start talking to you about your marriage or about your affair or about the future, you get to have a boundary that you don't want to talk about this right now because you're right in the middle of it. You don't have to process what you're going through with family members or with people that are saying that they care, but their words tell you otherwise. You don't owe these conversations to anyone. You certainly don't owe them with your partners or your ex-partner's family. You don't owe them with your family unless you have people around you that are supportive and that can hold you without trying to fix you or trying to give you advice. Getting through this season is all you have to do. And it's not about avoiding the elephant in the room because that's different. It's just getting through one of the most intense times of the year whilst you're going through one of the most hellish things a human can go through is wise. All you have to do is take one step at a time. If it means you have to take 1 minute at a time, take 1 minute at a time. That's all I could do at one point, is take it minute by minute. And if you are in the middle of an argument, if you're in the middle of an activation, if you're in the middle of a trigger, you do not have to abandon what is happening inside of you to go and please everybody else. And if it feels like you have to, I want you to remember these words in your ears. You don't have to. You don't have to do anything. You're in the traumatic fallout post-affair. There is so much moving for your whole family right now. And if Christmas feels like it's just full of dread, and all you can do is survive it, then it doesn't mean that you are failing. It doesn't mean that this is what it's going to be like forever. It doesn't mean that this is just your life now. Because seasons where we are just surviving, they do not last forever. But they do initiate something. They are the times in our lives where we have to sit up and listen because it's so painful. And we don't want to keep going like this. We don't want to keep feeling this pain. We don't want to keep feeling like we're the worst person in the world, or we have to keep pretending, or have to keep hiding, or have to keep saying that I'm okay because I'm trying to rescue my partner's feelings because they're the ones that have been cheated on and I'm the bad guy. And we don't just have to live our lives like this. Like when we are at rock bottom, it's the part of our lives where we're probably most likely to realize we can't keep going like this forever. And I really want to offer you something right now as somewhere that you can land after Christmas. This is something that can come after you've been in your survival. And it's called the sanctuary. And the sanctuary is somewhere that you get to land, where you get to put the weight down, where you get to move away from the perpetual overthinking, from the tension in your body, and you get to take a slow and steady step towards the woman that you are becoming. And it's absolutely the space to put the weight down. It is a gentle, steady rhythm of healing. And it's not about becoming someone new overnight, but it's about being able to stay connected long enough to become who you already are. There is no pressure to share in the group. There is no pressure to perform healing or to be ready. There is no pressure to have your camera on. You get to come in discretion, and you get to come exactly as you are. Because I promise you that you are not behind. You haven't ruined your life. I know it feels like it, but I promise that you haven't. You also don't need to know what's coming next. I know your mind is trying to search desperately for what's next, but you don't need to know that. All you have to do this Christmas is stay connected to yourself. And that is not nothing. That is the beginning of something new. Thank you for listening to the Deeper Love podcast. If today's episode spoke to you, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And if you're ready to go deeper, you'll find all the ways to work with me in the show notes. Until next time.